What is up, Fightful Faithful? Here we are today, back with another interview on Fightful Overbooked. Today, we are sitting down with one of the hottest prospects in Irish wrestling today, Mr. Sculpted Cian Noonan. How are you doing today, Cian?
I'm good, man. How are you? How are you getting on?
And grand, and we'll get straight into the questions then. So, start at the very beginning for you. Who/what inspired you to pursue wrestling? Was it something that came on gradually, or was it something that just clicked early on?
So I think like a lot of people, I kind of always wanted to be a wrestler. I think there's a lot of people in wrestling probably have the exact same experience as me. But I had never really thought to go and pursue it. I think it just seemed unachievable to me at the time. I was quite a small kid as well, and even now I'm still trying to get bigger. But we try every day, you know. But I remember like thinking like, oh, that's America. Like it's not achievable. Like unless you're over in England or over in America, like you can't go do wrestling. And kind of put it to the back of my mind. Thought like, oh, this won't happen. And then in late 2018, I heard about OTT, and it wasn't until early 2019 I attended my first show. But I remember with the friend I was going with, he had told me he'd been to OTT previously, and he was saying like, "Oh, you get the chance to interact with wrestlers and stuff and meet wrestlers like halfway through the show." And I thought, oh, that's very cool. I never knew that was a thing. And I got to meet Will Ospreay, who at the time and probably now, I think modern day is probably my favorite wrestler ever. Like I think talking about all time, there's always different names that come about, but from modern day people who are still currently active, it's definitely Ospreay. And at that time, he was still much more flippy style wrestler, kind of like the way I try to have my style now. I love doing all this kind of flippy stuff. And I got to see him live, and I got to meet him in person. And I think it was a mixture of I was going to this OTT show, and in my head had this idea of like having like 100 people in the hall somewhere, from what you would see from some like indie wrestling in Ireland from a few years ago. But when I got to the venue, this show happened to have like 2,500 people at it. It was in the National Basketball Arena in Tala. It was called Homecoming 2. I think Pac and Walter was on the card as well. But I remember like going in and seeing this huge venue and seeing people who were there, like avid wrestling fans who were there for OTC and getting to meet Ospreay, and it just kind of clicked. I was like, I'd be stupid not to try this. So I looked up my local school, which was School of Irish Wrestling. At the time, it was about a kilometre from my house, and said like, "Oh, I'll wait till I finish school because now my own brain. I was in sixth year at the time, and if I focused on wrestling, I wouldn't have finished school. Or actually, I think I was in fifth year at the time. But I remember saying like, I'll wait till I finish my leaving cert and then I'll give it a try. And so I put it off then, and that was until March 2020 when I was in sixth year. COVID hit, and then I had to just sit on it. So I just waited through all the COVID to start. But I kind of had got in my head as well. I needed to be able to do this, because if you sit on it for a year and a half and if you were to fail, then I think it would just crush your spirit. You know, I had to be able to do it. So
You did obviously mention there the School of Irish Wrestling. Obviously, it's churning out new and new wrestlers feels like every couple of months now. And just wondering what your experience was with getting to train there, learning from some of the best in Irish wrestling.
it's been phenomenal. Like in my opinion, I got the chance to travel around Europe a good bit last year and train in places like Belgium and Spain and England, and France. But in my own opinion, like I think from all the schools I've attended, the School of Irish Wrestling is the best school in Europe, and it's really hard. Even like second place is still a good distance between it, and that's not knocking any other school. I just strongly believe the coaching we have from all their ability levels, as well as the wrestlers we churn out, are the best in the world. Which I've heard some people say recently, it's almost like propaganda at this point. But in my opinion, like when you see the lads like Jordan and Aoife come out of our school, and then I know Lee was and Aoife were trained a lot in Fight Factory too. But to have Lee as one of our trainers and then go over to Japan and see him representing Ireland over in Japan, it's quite inspiring as well. Then we obviously have like from our training standpoint, like Joe was in WWE, Maxer has been over to Japan. Karen has been in Ring of Honor and traveled all around the world as well. Paddy's one of the best in-ring workers I've ever seen and had the pleasure of sharing the ring with. Um, I strongly believe we have the best school in Europe, and to get from like brand new to like show level in 10 months or 9 months or so, and so when I got to make my debut, I still think like strongly enough that if it wasn't for them, I would have been a much longer process. And they didn't just push me on the show for sake, but they only kind of give you this opportunities when you've earned it. So I was happy to like feel like in that time period I had gotten to a stage where I could be on shows. I do think it's the strongest candidate for best school in the world.
And just still kind of hovering a little bit around when you were just starting, your nickname Sculpted. I'm just curious, where did that come from? Is it a personal thing? Is it something that someone else called you and went running with, or?
At the time, I wanted to go for something like to do with like I hate kind of trying to describe it, but like being vain and kind of liking how I look and all this type of stuff. And I do love going to the gym. It's my only kind of other major interest other than wrestling. And I was trying to find a name to kind of go with it and also kind of help with designing gear and stuff like this. And it was actually, I think Nathan Boots Murphy who came up with it. I'd asked them to a group chat. I was like, they knew the idea I was going for a while, and I was like, oh, does anyone have any ideas on names? And he came in with that name. So I was like, oh, I really like the sound of that, and then just took it on. From my first Contenders match is when I first used it, and I've had it ever since. So.
And you just did mention it there, the Contenders matches, and obviously the 2024 details for the Contenders were just revealed that LJ Cleary is going to be part of it and so on. For you personally, what was your experience like with Contenders? Was it something that really did kind of help shape who you wanted to be as a wrestler?
I find that for myself, I haven't had major opportunities to shine on Contenders yet. I've been very fortunate with some main show appearances, which I've had great opportunities to shine against like Omari and Robbie X and stuff like this. But when it comes to actual Contenders, I've had 2 Contenders matches. One, I got beaten the piss out of by Noah Walker in about a minute and a half, and the other one was an 8-man tag, which I think my total time in the ring was probably 3 minutes or something like this. So I haven't had a major kind of match in Contender style. I think Contenders also post-COVID to pre-COVID is a fairly different type of Contenders, a different type of show. So if I get an opportunity like that this year, I'd love it. But as of now, like it's really helped with getting on shows and getting in front of crowds. And then I think OTT fans can also see me for the first time, and it will help them remember me. And it's a great opportunity for me to kind of, I suppose, like get myself introduced to the fans. So then when you kind of get bigger matches, you're fortunate if people can hopefully remember who you are by that point. So I think getting any form of reaction to the local Rumble or before the Robbie X match and stuff like this, I think was definitely helped through Contenders, because that would have been the only place OT fans have really seen me.
You did mention there, obviously, your matches with Omari, with Robbie X, especially with Robbie, who is such a not an influence on the world of like high flying wrestling, but he is obviously the king of the cruiserweights, and he was one of your biggest matches to that day. And I'm just wondering, what did you learn from Robbie in that? What was that whole experience like? Because obviously, like I did say, he does have that kind of influence over the high flying style in Europe.
To be honest, I didn't know if I was ready for the opportunity until it happened. And even now, I don't know if I was ready for the opportunity. I think it was quite a surprise to get. Sorry, excuse me. It was quite a surprise to get a match like that. I was very delighted, and the fact that I was able to kind of keep up with him and last in the ring with him, to me, kind of like going back to like the question earlier, speaks volumes of like my training and how helpful my trainers have been. But that's a really good question. What I've learned from him, I think, getting to be in a match like that, because I'm a very big fan of his kind of style of wrestling. It did teach me that even through what I'm trained, we're not trained kind of the same style as you're going to have with every wrestler you work with. So, wrestling him, he obviously is a very different style to the style that I've learned. So I think it's kind of trying to help incorporate my own style within that type of match and that style of match going forward. Because if, let's say, they bring in another name similar to him, like a Leon Slayer or something like this, they will get to wrestle. I would have to work more towards his style if he's the kind of the bigger name coming in. So I think it's something that I should really try to focus on, is being able to make sure that through my training, I can also do other styles of wrestling that I haven't done before and try to take it into my own kind of learning experience,
Yeah. And you did mention him as well, just in the answer previous, Omari. You have been someone who has been on social media, especially. You have been someone who has been very supportive of Omari, and you do feel like he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. And just in that kind of just continuing on that trend, like what was that experience like? Obviously, because, and I'm going to ask you again about another opponent, because I feel like you have really wrestled some of the most varied different styles of the Irish scene right now. So I'm just curious about like your outlook on those in general. But for now, Omari,
I think he brought one of my best matches ever out of me. It could be my best match ever. I think there's only like a very small amount of names I think in Ireland that I can think of at the top of my head that I know can kind of pull a good match out of anybody from seeing them work with other wrestlers or having the experience working them myself. And funny enough story about that day, me and Omari are best friends, so I know he'll hate to hear me say that. But we had been over wrestling in tourist wrestling in Spain, and we had flown back, and we had to travel that night in Spain from Valencia to Alicante, I want to say, if that's the correct name of the place. I could be completely wrong, but it's about a 2-hour drive to the airport, so we had to travel overnight to the airport. And we got dropped off to our hotel by the promoter, and we had about half an hour to sleep, and I had to get back up to go to the airport. Flew home, had a shower, and then went straight to the venue to have the match. So we were on about an hour's sleep the very most. So it was a very long day for the two of us. But then, as I said, like, he pulled an amazing match out of me. And as tired as we both were, I remember getting to the venue, and we were delighted that we were going to be like wrestling each other. The fact that like we were able to still go out there and be able to put on a proper shift and put on a proper like match for that card with the lack of sleep shows. I think he knew. I think working with him, I felt comfortable enough that I knew I was going to be safe and we're going to have a good match no matter what. Because I knew no matter how tired I get or how quickly I get tired due to having low energy, he could pull anything out of me. And I really enjoyed the match. I strongly will say he's one of the best wrestlers in the world, and I think it'd be a crime if an NXT Europe trial eventually comes up and he doesn't get picked. It would be a crime. Like, he is really a phenomenal talent in every aspect. Like, I think he's really a once in a lifetime wrestler for independent wrestling, UK wrestling, European wrestling, whatever you want to call it. I think he's a once in a lifetime athlete and wrestler.
And just changing lanes a little bit here, you did have a pretty big spot in the local Rumble, actually, coming in and just taking out everyone. And just curious, like, what did that mean to you? Obviously, it was the first Rumble that OTT had ever produced. It was kind of really the first big one that had been held in Ireland. So I've just been trying to ask everyone who was in part of it, because it's not really a familiar match type for this island, really.
I was really, really thankful to be a part of that, because like, I don't know if you've seen it, but Con Kelly put out a video this week, and he's talking about how he's the hardest worker in the room, and I would attest that too. He's definitely the hardest worker in the room. So I was shocked with some names that didn't get the chance to be in the match, but at the same time, I wasn't gonna like be any less thankful for the fact that I got put into it. I'm really, really grateful I got put into that match. I think that was a great spot to be in, and I had the chance where like Paddy obviously doesn't wrestle anymore. So the fact that then when I came into that match, I was in the ring with Paddy. I got to be in with one of my trainers, which, like, if you look at all my trainers, I've never wrestled Joe. That's the only time I've wrestled Paddy. I've never wrestled Maxer. I've never wrestled Lee. The only one of all my trainers I've wrestled is Joey, who does part-time training, Omari, who did part-time training, and then Martina. So I've had the opportunity to wrestle them, but the opportunity to be in there with Paddy then, which was an opportunity I really didn't think was ever going to happen. Because even looking at it, like, in OTT, I come out and I'm kind of, as you would call, like a baby face, you know, and so is Paddy. I don't think it would be a very likely opportunity to ever get to wrestle him. So just to be in the same ring as him, I was delighted. I got to be in there with Light and Buzzard as well, and Grado, which was an insane experience. Try to wrap my head around when Grado came in. What a moment, you know. I think it was really thankful to be a part of it. And next year, as far as I'm aware, it's in the National Stadium, so hopefully we'll get my little stadium debut there as well to be able to be a part of that.
So then obviously we're getting closer and closer to present day. Showdown on Sheriff Street was a big night for you. You did get to wrestle Sammy D, OTT World Champion, in singles competition. Sammy, when I was talking to Sammy a couple of weeks ago, he did name you as someone who was just as one of the top Irish prospects. So he obviously sees a lot in you. And what was that like for you, obviously, because he's such a different style to Omari, to Robbie, just in general, like, and it was such a big match for you in the first event held in conjunction with Dublin City Council, obviously. A
really great opportunity, like a really great opportunity. I was very thankful for having it. Like, I think in every sense of the word. I don't know if you were there for the match.
Sam wasn't, unfortunately.
That's okay. Sam was a snake in the ring. Like, he seen an opportunity and he immediately jumped on it. I banged my knee a bit in the match about, I'd say, 3 or 4 minutes in, and Sam saw the opportunity and dived on it. But in fairness to him, I do understand he's the world champion. He can't have a young up-and-comer beat him. But after the match as well, he did make it known that I am a prospect, and he was very proud of me, so I'm happy. And he said that in the ring in front of the fans. It wasn't one of these things where no one gets to see it. So I was really happy he kind of took the time to tell me that he was proud of me and that I was able to keep up. I think Sam's a wrestler as well. That when I was talking about Omari being one of the best in Europe, Sam's definitely one of the most underrated in Europe. I think. For Irish talent, like he's phenomenal. Like he's really top dog in Ireland right now. But the fact that he's not out everywhere at the moment is still kind of shocking to me. I think he's just kind of this untapped. I don't know what you call it, maybe a diamond in the rough. But I think his time will eventually come. I know he's had obviously a long run as of now. I think he's wrestling 18 years, but he's still so young as well. I think he's only 27. He's still really, really young for such a long period of time being in wrestling. So I'm hoping he gets that opportunity fairly soon.
And just as we're winding down a little now, just obviously in this day and age, there's just so much talent in Europe, in the US, in Japan, all around the world. But for you personally, if you could step in the ring with anyone in the world for a singles match, who would it be?
I think if you're looking at it kind of in two ways, like I think the way I like to look at it is if there's an immediate future or someone who I feel in the next like span of time I could be able to get to like achievably or like foreseeably. I think Leon Slayer. Like I've watched a lot of his stuff in the last while. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's one of the best wrestlers in the world at the moment. I think also kind of in somewhat of a short distance that could be plausible is Michael Oku or LJ Cleary as well. I think they're really three phenomenal wrestlers. It doesn't seem like it's all that far away, fortunately, at the moment. I hope that these opportunities eventually come my way, But if you're talking like long term and seems like it'll be years away and I'm happy to wait, Ospreay definitely is at the top of the list. I still think he's like seeing how much he's changed in style and his physique as well, going from being like just a skinny, scrawny kid to being this kind of hulking heavyweight now, and he's only got better with age and with time and changing his style. I think he's the best, If there's anyone else I can really think of, they're probably in WWE at the moment, like someone like Jordan, Even seeing like lads and contenders pre-COVID getting the opportunities to wrestle Jordan, I was just kind of pulling my hair going, oh my God, I wish I was wrestling back then, Like Jordan is above and beyond one of the best representatives of Ireland I've ever seen,
And just one more question before I do let you go. This weekend, obviously, Gaff Party in Dublin. It is a very big main event. You've got Jay, you've got Trent Seven, and you've got Sammy D. And just if I could I get a prediction from you for that match, and maybe for Leon Slater and Robbie as well, seeing as you just mentioned Leon.
I have a feeling if I start with the Robbie and Leon match, Robbie will probably pull through in that one. And I think it's because Robbie definitely has experience on his side, and I think he's also a bit more of a regular to our OT crowd, probably feels a bit more at home here. I think Leon's been here probably 3 or 4 times, and I'm not even sure if Leon's wrestled in front of a Dublin crowd before or than Stadium. But then you have, for that triple threat as well, it's a hard one to really call. I have a strong feeling Jay could be kind of the underdog in this, a bit of a dark horse, someone you're not expecting. With the two lads having so much experience, and Trent obviously having the fact that he's been in WWE and now he's in TNA, he's appeared in AEW. These lads seem like they're more likely to win, but Jay could come in and steal it for himself, But at the end of the day, I think Sam is going to take home the win. I think Sam's going to retain the championship and keep it here for Ireland, I hope. As long as this belt doesn't get taken away by a part-timer, I'll be quite happy to see one of the lads from Ireland take it.
Yeah. That's all that we have time for in this interview, Cian. Absolutely lovely chatting to you. Do you want to tell people where they can find you on socials and any upcoming bookings that you've got?
Yeah, definitely. Noonan Wrestling on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Cian Noonan on Facebook, all this type of stuff, that you can find out all my wrestling stuff through there. But when it comes to where I'm coming up next, I think the next booking is in Hard Knocks on March 10th. Which you'll see details come out online in the next week or so, hopefully, because we are winding down the days before it now. You'll catch me on NLW coming up, and I'll be at both OTT shows over this weekend, but this video will probably come out by past the weekend, I'm guessing.
Oh, no, this will probably be airing probably tonight, actually.
Okay,
morning and stuff, yeah.
Grand. So then this weekend I'll be there for both days. I don't know if I'm competing with anything yet, but if I am, you'll see me show up, but I'll be there both shows as well.
Hope to see you competing on those shows anyway, Cian. And guys, if you are new to Fightful Overbooked, make sure to like, subscribe, and make sure to come back for more interviews because we're going to keep on going. And yeah, thanks, guys. See you next time.
Bye.